So let's discuss using the input range validation for not just the range check. We talked about this one, like the values of a month should lie between 1 and 12. We can't use 0. We can't use anything greater than 12. So we would need a simple if-else statement. So notice, by the way, all of these are going to use simple either if-else statements or functions that you and I already know about. But that is, again, one way of checking the range of the data is legit or not. We have a reasonability check. We talked about this. Greater than 16, less than 100. I'm not sure exactly what that application was, but still, we need to have some if statements to take care of that with an and everything else you already know about. A divide by 0. We got to make sure that if you put in a 0, that it's a legitimate value. We had 0 for age. Maybe it's a newborn. Yeah, okay, but 0 for... Trying to think of something that happens that can have 0. Oh, for date. 0 can't be used for a date. So we have to worry about zeros, but specifically when we're dividing by 0, you really want to make sure if you're dividing by something, make sure that no dice, numerator, denominator, the denominator is not a 0. Length checked. We talked about this a couple of times. U.S. telephone numbers being 10 digits, U.S. Social Security numbers being 9 digits. These are all items that we can just frankly use the length function on strings to check. So again, I want you to notice that all of these are relatively pretty easy to figure out. The format check is actually going to be one of the more interesting ones is because, well, let's say the length of the string is fine for a telephone number, but we got to check to see if dashes are in the right place and that dashes aren't in the wrong place. You got to check both. So the most difficult one out of all of these is really a format check. But again, it's using if-else statements. There's nothing really crazy about that. But that is, again, another form of validation that we're going to need and have. So this is a longer exercise than the one previous because, frankly, I've hoped to instill some ideas that now you really have to think about when it comes to, frankly, well, applications and the data that we're going to be receiving. Now, to be honest with you, actually everything's pretty clear with the instructions for a change because I am being more specific. But what I'm worried about is you might actually have to do some research. It'll only take you a minute, like airport, okay? What do I mean by type of airport? Now, I actually mean airport codes. You probably have no idea what that means. Now, if you're from the Northeast, you might have heard of some of them. But anyway, you may need to check what that means, airport and airport codes. You know what zip codes are, but I bet you have no idea what the starting range of a zip code is and the ending range is going to be. There's even going to be some other things that we have to worry about. Do some research. Radios. I don't know. Probably a lot of you still listen to radio. I don't know. But anyway, radio station. There is a range that we need to have for that. You need to do some minor research. It'll only take you a couple of minutes. But you're going to be required to do that as you develop your own applications professionally. I had to do it for a rocket fuel calculation. That was crazy. But anyway, so literally rocket scientist. But anyway, you got to do some research. And then answer, what data type is best with this? Is there going to be a string or no catch? You're going to need some type of catch, meaning is there going to be some other things that you have to worry about? So let me explain that one, so I'm glad I went over that. Then your possible ranges, and then what are you going to use? An if-else or case or maybe something else. Case, by the way, is great for, as you know, for individual issues that you know might pop up. So, yeah. So go ahead. This is going to take you a little while to really think through this. And the nice part is, well, I shouldn't say nice part, but the interesting part is there might be some stuff you might disagree with me on. So do some research. Tell me what all of these different values could be, and then we'll go over and answer ish here in a bit. All right. State was already done for us. Zip code. We know zip code is going to be an unsigned int because it's an integer value, but notice the range is too wide. It started from 0, 0, 1, blah, 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 and then ends at 9, da, 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 da. But it's still only 5 digits. Now, some of you are going to look at me and wait a minute, Lupoli, it's 9 digits because you have the 5 and then you include the 4. You're right. So again, depending on your resolve and which one you want to do, this answer is different. Is it zip code 5 or is it going to be zip code 9? You're absolutely right. If it's zip code 9, you have to really make it a string because there's going to be a dash, and that dash is really important. That last 4 listen to me, the last 4 digits are more of a locator more than anything else like that. So it helps specify a little bit better. So it really depends on what you want to do in that. Now, is it if, else, or case? Well, if I'm going with the 5, I'm going to use an if, else to check to make sure it's not below a number, really frankly, because of the unsigned int takes care of that, but not above a number either, because remember, the range from that goes up 65,000 for an unsigned short. So I'll have to use an if, else for that one. Radio frequency. This time I specify it's an FM, and notice that's going to be a float or double. I'm old school, so I use float because it doesn't take as much digits. But anyway, is there really any strings involved in that? Not really. Possible range you see popping up here. And again, I'm going to have to use an if-else because there is, frankly, a range that we can check below and check above a certain range using our floats or doubles, whatever one that we're going to use. So I'm going to use that. Social Security numbers. Now, by the way, I didn't say anything about dashers or not. So we could have 2 different values on this. To be frank, and I think most of you would probably do the same thing, but may not, I'm going to consider this as a string. Do we need to catch it as a string or any catch? I think I'm skipped on the previous ones. Not really, because it's going to be a string. You know the inner values are going to have to be checked. We're going to have to check they didn't put characters like alphabetical or anything else like that. So the if-else is going to be massive when it comes to this because I got to check every single position to see, number one, if it's either a number, and in some positions that they're dashes. So this is a lot of work, and we kind of talked about that previously with another example. Airport codes. I'm from the Baltimore area. I've got a lot of airports around me. BWI, Dulles, DUL, RCA, I think it's Reagan. But anyway, MCO is Orlando. There's a lot of airport codes that are out there, by the way. Airport codes are, well, it depends. Is that actually, if you go to FlightAware or some other, more FAA type of stuff, you'll actually see that they're 4 letters and not just the 3 that you and I may know and love. So again, that's where their research came into play with this. But let's, for now, just make it the 3 character ones. The data type's going to be a string, okay? Can't use character because that's just 1. Is there going to be a catch for that? Not really, because it's a string. Possible ranges. The length has to be 3 or 4 for the other one. But it has to be a range of 3. By the way, in a string, we have to also make sure, because asterisks are characters too, we got to check to make sure that everything is alphabetical in that particular string. So yes, there's going to be some if statements when we get into that. Last part. You're probably like, what the hell is that? Digits and texting. Well, if you open up your cell phone, you look at your numbers on there and it pop up. See the letters that are underneath of them? Matter of fact, I forgot my cell phone for this one. But anyway, 1 doesn't have any. A has, number 2 has A, B, and C. And then back in my day, if I texted whatever, I had to hit, for B, I had to hit A twice just to get the B and spell it all out, all using the number pad. Was it slow? Yes. That's why all of you kiddies have a nice freaking typewriter that's on the... Anyway, so God, I'm getting old. But anyway, you probably didn't know what that was. Now, the funny part is the data type's actually going to be a character for that because, again, I'm just trying to get 1 letter. Now, by the way, that could have been char or string. We'll go either way on that. Possible ranges. Now, again, this time, it's not completely alphabetical like it is for airport because, again, if you want to say, hey, let's go out with an exclamation point, exclamation point needs to be accepted. So the range is a little bit wider than what you would have had in your airport one. And then, because it's specific for the different characters that we can have, we can use a case statement for that particular one. Whew. It's a lot to think about, isn't it? This is a massive exercise, but each time you have to think about exactly what's going in. And that's just one part of the process of validating your data.